Hey friends, Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report, because without you guys, this would be nothing. Well, it's the off-season, day number 3, and it's time to start thinking about what team we're going to have for the 2017 season. First thing we got to deal with is free agents and letting some of these guys go. You know, the bloodletting has already happened. Teams are already beginning to cut players left and right now. So you're beginning to see who may be out on the streets. Now, one thing that helped our Dallas Cowboys defense last year is they didn't go crazy in signing big-name free agents. In fact, they valued signing their own free agents because of having guys that know your system sometimes is more valuable than getting somebody who may have more talent, because there's an adjustment period of learning the system and getting used to playing around the guys with you. Also, too, it's better on your salary cap. And since we've been basically in salary cap hell for most years, we hadn't been able to sign big free agents if we had wanted to. Now, a lot of people will say, well, the Dallas Cowboys, have the least amount of cap room of anybody, which is true. But for once, we're actually going into an off-season where we actually have some money left over. I don't think you guys remember when we were going the off-seasons a few years ago where we were like $21 million or more in the red. So don't let anybody fool you thinking that we don't have money, because they basically, by restructuring these contracts, which have triggers in them, that they can restructure and grab $29 million like that. And that's before you start counting in, if and when we get rid of Tony Romo, us having that $24 million cap hit goes to basically $10 million for this year and $9 million for the following year. So all of a sudden there you got another $14 million that you can spend on free agents and free agency. However, before we start looking at getting other guys from other teams, we got to figure out which guys we want to keep on our team that's currently there. And unfortunately, we're kind of hitting groups. I mean, we've got 2 wide receivers in Bryce Butler and Terrence Williams. We've got, Ron Leary in the offensive line. And then in our defensive backfield, that's where we have a whole lot of guys that are free agents, from Church to J.J. Wilcox, Morris Claiborne, and Brandon Carr. And I know a lot of you guys will say, oh, we'll just get rid of all of them and bring other people in. Well, it's not exactly that easy, because great cornerbacks just don't walk the street, and they certainly don't sign for your team for peanuts. So you can't replace 4 guys. You can't draft that many. We don't have any compensatory picks. So we've got 7 picks right now. I know some of you guys have been saying, well, we should go ahead and trade up and try and get a beast. Yeah, but here's the thing. We got a whole lot of holes to fill. And using 2 picks on 1 guy, it's not a smart move right now, because we have to get these holes filled. So with that being said, let's look at a few free agents that we think might be staying or going. Let's start with the enigma. Morris Claiborne, a man that we used a first and a second round draft pick to move up to 6 to take. Well, Morris has been a disappointment throughout most of his career because he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I've in fact called him made of glass, because it seemed like he was always getting injured, and there were always strange injuries. I mean, don't get me wrong. This year he really came around, and I believe was ranked as high as 19th best cornerback in the league before he got hurt. But one of your best abilities in the NFL is your availability. And sure, he played great for 7 games, but he missed 9. And when he came back, he wasn't a factor in that game and got hurt again. So I look for him, and I think it might be best for both sides for him to move on and try something new. So I think Morris Claiborne is out of here. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have Brandon Carr, a guy who never gets hurt, never missed a game as a Dallas Cowboy. Unfortunately, he signed that big contract that he was never going to be able to live up to. But unlike most cornerbacks that have signed big contracts, he actually made it through his whole contract. When you looked at a guy like Namdi, who signed that fat paycheck with the Eagles, he was there for 2 years, $25 million guaranteed, and he was gone and was not a factor for that team whatsoever. So even though Brandon Carr is 32 years old, I think he was ranked about 40th at cornerback in the NFL. I look for the Cowboys to sign him to a team-friendly contract. So whether you love it or hate it, doesn't really matter. You still aren't going to be able to find somebody who plays as well as him that you can afford. That is, if you don't want to try and do some work in other places that we really have another need as well, like the defensive line. J.J. Wilcox, 26 years old, played outstanding this year. He's going to be in high demand, and I think he's going to be priced out of the Dallas Cowboys price range. So I look for him to go. Church, great run stopper, had a pretty good season. I look for the Cowboys probably to re-sign him. So that's about what I think will happen as far as our defensive backfield. Now, some people have been talking about Eric Berry from Kansas City. We should sign him. Yeah, but we don't have the money to sign that guy. Sorry, it's just too much money. More than the Joneses will afford. And I still say your best bang for the buck, if you're going to go out and spend a chunk of change, where you spend it is the defensive line. The defensive line helps all phases of your game. You bring in a Calais Campbell, a guy who is 6'8", 300 pounds, and who is a disruptor. He's consistent. He doesn't miss games. He's going to give you 7-8 sacks every season. He's going to get about 54 tackles. And he's going to command a double team, which in essence will free up the other guys on your team. So if you want to spend big money, that's where you go. A cornerback, I don't care how good he is, if you don't have a pass rush that's going to get to the quarterback, he can't hold up 5, 6, 7 seconds back there. He'll get picked apart. I don't care who he is. You've got to have a pass rush. So that's my thoughts on our defensive backfield and what we need to do with our current free agents back there. Next time, we'll focus in on another position. So as always, friends, I'm Mark Holmes. This is Cowboy Joe Boo, and thank you for watching the Joe Boo Sports Report.